I don't want Greta Gerwig's next 5 years to be wasted doing Narnia for Netflix. I want it to be going to do your prime stuff, Gerwig.
Also, who are you gonna recast after James McAvoy did Mr. Tumnus?
Timothy Chalamet, obviously. It's so
it writes itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn it, I want to see it. So. Can we just acknowledge that I think maybe a week or two ago I made a slightly passive-aggressive comment for the Pulp Kitchen fans to get off their arse and share the show. And in that time, I usually get a notification on our little analytics when we hit the top 50, which I'm always really chuffed about. And I think if we've got just into that top 50, I've always been really happy. And sometimes we've got to the 30. But then I get this notification, I see this pop up and it's like, oh, congratulations, you're at 16. And I'm like, oh, great. Knocking on the door of greatness. And then I check again the next day, 13. The next day, 10. The next day, 8.
Yeah.
And then we peaked at 7.
Yeah.
7. This is in the TV and film chart.
It's like we had a hit single out.
Yeah. And it was like in the documentary seeing us climb up.
We were getting up there and we were getting so close to being famous. Because it's always a
we're there like
northern
just,
band.
Yeah. And then I looked at like all the other people in the top 15, massive podcasting network, Sony Music Entertainment, Heartstopper, Ringer. Like, I'm talking like 50 podcast network corpos. And we were just there, Pulp Kitchen of Pulp Kitchen.
Is this,
it was great. But guys, if you did just grab if everyone who listened grabbed their partner's phone and subscribed and listened, that was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is this episode just going to begin with us just being like, so I don't know if you heard, but we
hot
charted.
Shit. And then we had that news clip do very well.
I also, speaking of that, I also feel a bit bad because last week, I believe we had an email from a guy called George who asked us the question we always get asked about, like guilty pleasures and stuff. And we explained why we just didn't want to ask
get that question every week.
But then we looked at the analytics and we realized that our audience has, doubled in a short, many times. And I was like, oh, there's probably quite a few people who didn't know the answer to that question. And
I think we also apologise to George.
I will say apologise. I will apologise again.
Yeah.
To George, but I will also not give an answer. You can still go back and find previous answers. But I just want to say I didn't mean to offer any offence. And if you are a new listener, welcome to episode 92 of Pulp Kitchen. We've been here. It's a sweltering day here in Great Britain and London.
Yeah,
it's like it was like
delayed
summer all year. All year was like no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go. And they were like,
it's not going to be cold.
They were like,
but it's not going to be warm.
Fine, look, it's September now. The kids are going back, and then someone was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll give you a bit of heat.
Yeah,
I'll give you a little bit." Then, boom, 28 degrees.
Yeah,
which is
hot for us.
Sub-Saharan.
Yeah,
Anyway.
the heat hits different in the UK when it comes. We're not ready for it. It just cuts through.
So we both went to weddings at the weekend.
We did
because we're now that age when people are kind
constant dizzy. I've got another one this weekend.
Oh my God, you can't move.
Yeah,
I've had 3
back-to-back weddings
this year.
Going to be 4.
And I think we're getting to that age. I realised because I saw some photos from your one.
Yes,
they looked
likewise.
very like rustic and lovely. And the one I was at was nice as well. I was like, oh, how beautiful! It's exactly the golden hues of late summer penetrating through and warming the frame.
It was a 4:00 ceremony, so you've got that post at about 5:30. Everyone's having canapes and champagne over a lawn where the sun's just at a nice angle.
I had there is a point. I'm getting to a point, but there was like bottomless Aperol. And I
forget
wore,
about it for
coincidentally, an orange tie, and the sunlight glinting through the Aperol,
shining through
my orange tie.
Yeah.
Whoa. Hello, coordination.
Yeah.
But I was going to say that we are getting to that age now. When I was looking at these photos, it's like do you remember that scene in 500 Days of Summer where he goes to the dinner party on the rooftop and it's like expectations, reality?
Yeah, famous.
And it's like, again, it's shot at not golden hour, but just a bit before, like dusk. And, with the festooned lighting and it's all kind of people dressed up, but kind of also casual.
That Regina Spektor song. You never ever saw it coming.
That's it. And I remember when I watched that when I was like 17, I was like, I'd love to be that old and like be that cool enough. Yeah, it's not about the film. It's like, that kind of like you're kind of independent enough, hopefully have a little bit of disposable income enough to, hang out with your friends in this kind of picturesque way, which really is only for weddings and stuff. Yeah. And then when I looked at the photos back from my wedding and I saw the photos from your one, I was like, we've reached that point where we're able to go every so often to these kind of lavish parties. I did this actually. I will give a shout out to Lucy Cridland, who sat next to me.
Oh yeah,
and she said to me, "Look, she said, I gotta be honest, George. I'm a huge fangirl. I'm fangirling right now. And she was like, I
Of the show?
listen to your show every. Just of me in general. She was like, I listen to the show every week.
Routines.
But she's the sister of a good friend of mine.
Oh,
but
nice.
she listened to the show for about a month before she realised it was me.
Oh, wow.
And then she was like, did the double take.
Yeah.
So this one goes out to you. And I enjoyed milking the kind of friend of the show association. So she was like, oh, could you pass the broccoli? Or we had lovely food. Pass the broccoli and stuff. I go, yes, for a friend of the show. Of course. There you go. It was great. So
Did they ask you what you thought about recent films?
no, thankfully.
Yeah.
Actually. No, that's the dead end you can go down.
Considering we talk about films for 2 hours every week, if not more, my mind goes so black when people are like, what have you seen this week that's good? And I've literally seen like 3 things this week that are good. But my mind just goes,
It's because
I've got no idea what.
As we've realised before, it's like you and I, because we do
Like
this
right
show,
now, I'll very happily talk to you for 2 hours
this
about
is
what's
where
good.
we save the middle ground for now, but when we actually speak to people, it's like we have 2 options. We give you a 5-second answer or a 5-minute answer.
And I'm conscious
Can't
of
do anything
being
in
that
between.
person who does a film podcast in their spare time. He's like, well, really, think about Scrapper.
So someone said, oh, what do you think of Oppenheimer? I'm like, do you want my 5-10 minute review or do you want a 5-second thing? Because I'll probably just give you
Oppenheimer's, it's 5 seconds or 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I had a 5-minute conversation about Oppenheimer at my wedding yesterday.
yeah,
They
they want
were
it to
like,
be 5 seconds.
the guy was like, oh, what do you do? And I said, oh, I work in media and I do this film podcast on the side. And he was like, oh, right. So what did you think of Oppenheimer? And then I gave him a 5-second one. Just like, I think it's a really demanding film, but like so much of it I really enjoyed, which is like my 5-second answer. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, because I thought this. And then it was just forget about it. It was and then someone else joined in. It's like, well, I thought that. There you go. It happens.
Anyway, episode 92. Got 92. We are at that time of the year now, which I really like, which is that the summer period is over. The schools have gone back. And the big movies, the blockbusters, the ship is kind of sailing out the harbour now.
Exactly the same thing.
And incoming into the port are the smaller, more interesting indie films. Not necessarily Oscar contenders. It's a bit early for that. But like the smaller, more interesting ones can kind of bubble through. So
I told you a few weeks ago I had summer studio fatigue.
Yes.
And I'm not saying these are like small films. I just mean like that coming out of Gran Turismo.
Give me a Beau is Afraid.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Give me something
weird,
durable,
something weird like that. Yeah.
And a palette cleanser to come in. So you kind of have the changeover.
Just like smaller idea, smuller concept.
Smaller budget.
Smaller budget, trying to tackle less. I think it's quite refreshing.
I was thinking about that on the way in, actually, because I was thinking about how much I loved Rye Lane, because it was sunny and I was listening to some of this music. And I was like, because I think Rye Lane is like, as I get older, it's my thing with films is almost a bit my thing with food, which is like, I love food and I can put it away. You've seen me. But really, more often than not, I like less is more. I don't need a lot. I don't like overeating.
You don't want to feel,
and so like you have these big films. It's great and the pomp and the circumstance and it's like, but you sometimes just a little simple film, a little something like
you don't need Michelin every night.
Yeah, no, and Rye Lane isn't simple. It's actually incredibly well crafted and like beautiful and all that kind of stuff. But like, it's a small. It's not in with the big crowd. It's not playing the O2.
I'm not watching Scrapper thinking, are they moving backwards through time now? It's like
yes.
It's just
yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Is it like which part of the loop of time?
Yeah,
no.
You don't need to think that.
It's a relationship.
You want a film that could play the O2 Brixton, not the O2 Academy. The O2 Brixton, not the O2.
Give me one more metaphor.
You want?
We've done Michelin Star versus home cooking.
I haven't got one. Let's just start the show. Here we go. Bye.
So, George, you know that a couple of weeks ago, someone wrote in with an email saying, what are some of the great child performances that really stood out to you that you remembered? And I wish I could have seen Scrapper 2 weeks ago to scream at the top of my lungs, Lola Campbell in Scrapper. And it was her first film. She's, I think, 11, 12 years old.
She directed that,
Charlotte Regan directed this film.
Charlotte Regan.
Molly Manning Walker is the cinematographer for this film.
Yeah, that name really rings a bell.
Yeah, she did How to Have Sex this year.
Yeah, but I haven't seen that. It hasn't come out yet.
Young female directors just popping off this year.
Fantastic.
So Scrapper Stars is all about a character called Lola.
Hi guys, sorry, just a quick one. It's James editing the show a day later. I just realised in this review that I got so excited talking about how good the actor Lola Campbell is in this film that I ended up calling the character Lola. The character's name is not Lola, the actor is Lola, the character's name is Georgie. So for the rest of this review, every time I say Lola, I really mean Georgie. That's all, sorry, little correction, back to the show.
It's all about a character called Lola, who's age 12, who now lives by herself in a flat after her mother recently died. And she's been able to do this in this period of time after her mother's death by very cleverly tricking social services over the phone to convince people that actually her uncle is staying with her when really she's raising herself now, and it's completely unaddressed grief. It's sort of like a real sort of completely fallen through the cracks of the system. And the opening frame of the film are the words written, "It takes a village to raise a child," and then child's handwriting crosses it out and says, "I can raise myself, thanks." And that's exactly what Lola's doing. She barely makes rent by stealing bikes and selling them for parts, hence the Scrapper name. And she's sort of a bit of like a chancer, trickster, Del boy, sort of like, you know, she's stealing bikes and when people come like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, we're just checking the safety." And she's like really funny, but there's sort of a vulnerability behind her. And she goes into her local corner shop and she gets the guy who runs the corner shop to do voice recordings of like, "Yeah, we're fine, thanks, just having dinner now. Yeah, Lola's doing great." So that when social service is cool, she plays the voice notes back and then, "Can we speak to Lola?" And then she runs across the other side of the room and it's like, yeah, I'm over here. So she's like sort of, in a lot of ways, very, very capable. And that, again, like that central performance for 12 years old, incredibly natural, downplayed. Like I said, an undertone of sadness and regret that's unaddressed, but sort of through Lola's eyes, it's still very lighthearted and playful. And her father returns back into Lola's life by sort of like an intruder climbing over the back of the garden fence. There's like the sense that he's not really allowed to sort of have come back into her life, but he's sort of breaking back into her life. And there's a character called Jason, played by Harris Dickinson, who's having such a moment right now.
So hot right now.
I think last week he had his GQ feature cover, and in this film he's wearing these like sort of color clash urban clothes with a gorgeous jacket that genuinely could have been from his GQ cover like shoot. Like easily that could be a Vogue Saint Laurent jacket and neon shorts combo that would be like $3,000, but he's got the sort of Eminem bleached buzz cut. Just he's having a real moment.
He is. I feel like if a picture was released on the internet of him like kissing Paul Mescal, everyone would just explode.
We would explode. Yeah. We would have to take a week off just to process.
Oh my god. We take a week off every week.
We'd have tattoos of the moment on our arms.
We do take a week off every week because then we take a week.
Oh, for God's sake, you're ridiculous. So the film is really about, they've come back into each other's lives. It's sort of implied that Jason, he's playing someone who's about 24, 25, and Lola's about 11, 12. So we would have had Lola really, really young. And you got the sense that he's missed out on...
That can't be right.
14, 15, something like that. 15, yeah. Maybe younger than 24, but like, teenage childhood. And I think there's a sense that he lost a large element of his childhood, and he's been a club rep in Ibiza, like just living it up, doing that young thing, sort of running away from the kid that he's had. And I think the film's really strong, and I think the strengths for me lie in this film where it tries the least, oddly enough. I think when it's at its most still and its most contemplative and the less it's doing is when I felt a real attachment to it. And there's a lot of the time where like the less it's doing is that it's not relying on dialogue. You're actually just watching these two characters get to know each other, re-trust each other, and watching them pass the time. There's this really great scene where they're on a railway platform making fun of the other people across the way, like trying to imagine what their voices are like, and there's sort of this drama, comedy to it. And it's asking a lot less of the dialogue to tell you who these people are, and much more in just getting a sense of their energy and what might have happened to them and why they are the way they are. And that part of it really works. And I think the chemistry between them is just so well done. When I think about like child-adult actor chemistry, it's like it goes straight to the top of my list for that. There's this one really great moment where she cracks her tooth on some garlic bread that he burnt, like at dinner, and it's like, you know, she cracks it, like she loses the tooth. And, you know, he feels this sense like, oh, we should probably do the whole tooth fairy thing. So she goes to sleep, and he assumes that she's put the tooth under her pillow. So he goes upstairs and, like, tries to sneak his hand under, and she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, you know, like, I was just making sure your tooth is there for the tooth fairy. She's like, what's tooth fairy? Well, you know, you lose your tooth, you get a couple of quid. And then she's like, well, she probably owes me like 20 quid then. Yeah. It's just this like really funny, like witty dialogue. It reminds me a lot. I can't help but think if After Sun hadn't beat this film to it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I wonder if more would have been made of it, because it's like, you know, we're talking only a year or so away from that film.
Or do you think it helped it?
Could be. I can't quite decide if it's
too close.
benefit or too close.
I was going to say too young father with a young daughter, precocious young daughter.
Haunted darkness from the past that's sort of...
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot also of Sean Baker's The Florida Project.
Yes,
you saw a lot in there. And then Andrew Arnold's Fish Tank. You see a lot of elements there. It's interesting, even at 84 minutes, which was a real selling point to see the film, as per usual, there were a couple of the techniques used to progress the story that I don't think 100% landed from me. Okay. So it's very playful with how it tells a story of its location and where it is. And there are some things that it does with like a mockumentary style where it breaks the fourth wall and you cut to her teacher because she's not in school and you cut to the local kids at the playground and they're doing these sort of like quippy office mockumentary style bits to camera. And those didn't quite land for me because I think there's something to be said about interrupting the flow of your film. You know, you've got a really good scene about what I just kind of said, really great chemistry where there's actually no dialogue in it and the music rises and I'm connecting. And then I think the film like hard interrupts with a sequence.
It's almost like stuff you would do in Act 1.
Yeah.
Then bringing later into Act 2 and 3.
I think it just kept doing it. So even 84 minutes, I'm like, lose that.
Yeah,
really, like you can lose that.
You don't need that now.
There's a whole bit.
I'm already invested.
Yeah, I'm already in. I'm actually you just get cut off the energy of a really good moment. And there's this bit where the spiders in the house are talking to each other like characters from an NES game.
Right.
All right, that's really creative. But in this film, I'm not sure it fits 100%.
NES,
Nintendo Entertainment System.
Right.
Like the boxy one. You know what NES is?
Back in the day.
Yeah, like like old school. You never play Pokemon?
On my Game Boy.
Yeah, but you know when like the dialogue bits come up in the box and it's like Pikachu actually like that kind of style of like dialogue coming in. Harris Dickinson's really, really good in it, and I think I don't know how they with the director, with the performances, managed to get that incredible sense of chemistry out of the performance. And I think I left the film with this warm, refreshed and delighted feeling, and I had a really nice time with it.
Oh, that's lovely. I'm really intrigued to see it, and I want to catch it out. And 84 minutes, fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you think it'd make a good double bill with After Sun? Are they too?
The
overlap is too.
I can't tell. Probably not.
Okay.
Because I think they are trying to achieve very different things.
Yeah.
With After Sun, funnily enough, is a lot more flow. You know what I mean? It goes
sounds
straight
darker
through.
Though.
After Sun's darker. There is a real sense of unaddressed sadness in Scrapper, and like two people who probably don't know how to connect to each other, crashing it back into each other's lives and trying to realize who they are. Like that's there, but it's very light and very playful, which is what's very kind.
I will say again, although I haven't seen Scrapper for our new audiences, so I was going to say, I'm going to repeat myself, but now I'm aware that we have a lot of new listeners.
Yeah.
I won't be repeating myself, but
I'm James.
A film about an a deceased mother, absent father returning to a very playful, inventive, childlike nature of the world. Going to recommend Taika Waititi's Boy. Again, for me, his best film still, 2010. Check that out. That's really great.
Yeah.
But that was Scrapper. Have you seen it? Are you a big Harris Dickinson fan? We've had some emails about him already. Let us know what you thought of Scrapper. I don't know if it's been out yet in like the States or something. I can't imagine it getting a huge...
No, it depends how much they're enjoying Harris Dickinson, but he's British, so maybe we're getting an inflated sense of how hot
Harris,
he is right
well
now. Harris Dickinson is a very English name.
Yeah.
Harris, old
Harris
boy.
Dickinson.
Yeah.
Dickinson, come here.
Dickinson.
Harry.
Sorry, I did appreciate the sort of the way in which the emotion of the film isn't really addressed. Kind of feels like it's from Lola's perspective.
Nice.
I think the camera work is often shot at the height of Lola. And there's lots of really great pops of color of like multicolored magnets on a fridge.
Yes.
And those multicolored feather dusters.
Yes.
Really good use of just like splashing color in what could
Sounds
otherwise
right up my
be
street.
depicted as a very like drab, like flat.
Yeah.
And I was like, you actually shot this in a different way, in an interesting way. It's very colorful, very bright. I appreciate it. Sorry, just the last comment on the cinematography of Scrapper.
Lovely jubbly.
So another film I got to see this week is Past Lives, which is directed by Celine Song. And I really like it when a film has a stickiness to it. And after I finished the film, I got home in my flat and I had usually I like to put on music or a podcast when I have a shower, but for some reason I didn't feel like it. And I ended up having this really elongated, moody shower, thinking about the film and how sticky it was, how great the ending was. And I was really excited to talk about it, and I'm excited for other people to see it because I think it's really, really good. Past Lives is a film that's mostly in Korean. I think it's about 85% in Korean with bits of English in there, which I don't know why it's worth acknowledging, but I was sort of like, English was there, but it was very much a very small, insignificant part of it. It explores this concept of in-yun, which is acknowledged in the film as a sort of cultural thing, but also like very sappy and romantic, and uses the concept to try and get people to sleep with you. And it's this idea of how fate brings two people's lives together based on countless connections from their previous lives. So something about me and you draws each other together, not just because of this life, but because of ways in which our souls have communicated in the past life.
James, you're moving me.
You know, they didn't have mics in previous lives. It was just two guys on a rock. And then how, you know, even if we're not here together, maybe in a future life, something different would have happened.
Metaphysical, existential stuff.
Yes. And this film takes place in 3 different time periods, in the early noughties, 2010s, and then present day. We start in South Korea, and Na Young has a crush on another boy in her cast called Hae Sung. And they're too young to properly be in love, but they're probably old enough to feel in love. It's like kind of age where they're sort of like 11, 12. And just as, you know, even their parents are starting to acknowledge that, you know, there's clearly this bond and this connection between them. Na Young's parents are planning to move countries to go and live in the US. And so naturally they drift apart, their lives move onwards. 12 years later, we catch up, and this is all sort of very much in the beginning. And I'm going to be very careful not to spoil this film and where it goes, because I think what it reveals to you, I think is really special. So don't worry too much about the plot. I'm going to be very light touch. 12 years later, Na Young is living in New York as an aspiring writer. And just to mention, this is a film written and directed by Celine Song, who this is very heavily based on her life. So she, as a writer, her background is in the stage, as a playwright. She now directs films, but like this is all very personal. And then Hae Sung, played by Na Young's played by Greta Lee, and Hae Sung's played by TOU, is studying engineering still in Seoul. And they have this sort of weird happenstance link through a Facebook group that her dad is connected to that links them back together. And they're both like, oh my God, that guy, I haven't thought about him in such a long time. And just like a lot of people would have done in that time, you find a way to sort of Skype call them. And despite the time difference, they arrange to like have a call and say hi. And they meet, and you know, one person's in the middle of the night, the other person's first thing in the morning. And they have this really sort of like quiet, contemplative discussion where they have this, again, this connection. And they sort of acknowledge that when they were younger, they felt something, but you know, they were so young, they can't really acknowledge what it was. And there's also this connection to an immigrant experience, which I'll get onto later, whereas, you know, Na Young's living in America and she's adopting a whole new culture, but she still very much identifies as Korean and wants to connect with that. And Hae Sung really represents like keeping in touch with that Korean side of her. So they sort of can't explain why, but they end up doing these daily phone calls. And, you know, night or day for one of them while they're both studying. And they keep calling and have these really elongated phone conversations. But they realize that both of them are studying. No one's willing to move or travel. And they make the decision to stop talking. And they basically put the thing on ice. It's very sad. And they're both sort of like, well, what do we do? Cut 12 years into the future. We get to our final time period. And again, this isn't spoiler. This is like the very sort of premise of the film. We catch them that much later.
And it's now before midnight.
And it's now, well, I'm going to get onto that. It really is very much loads of references to it. So this is I think, about 45 minutes into the film where I think it really begins and it really kicks into this higher gear of a really soft, intimate, but very intense film. And this whole idea is that after all this time, Hae Sung decides he's going to visit New York. And Na Young's very excited to see him, but you know, she now has a husband and has a whole different life. And I think Past Lives is a really special film. It's a feature film by Celine Song, who has a background in the stage. And I can really see the DNA of a stage director in this film, but it never feels stagey. Okay. Not in the way that I think we've talked about other films feeling stagey. Yeah. It really indulges in the larger canvas that a camera and cinema can provide. It has a really wonderful sense of place, both from Seoul and New York, and it's one of the most dramatic films I've seen, but only in undertone. It nothing about the dialogue was sensationalist, and it even tries to, at many times, like bring itself back down to earth. And like, well, that's like, you know, what I talked about the Indian being a really cheesy concept and sort of addressing really obvious dynamics that are in play. It's like, we know that this is on your mind, and we're actually going to subvert what you think about that. I'm trying to be really sort of light on spoilers here. And everything takes the form in very realistic conversations, and I think those just constantly layer and reveal the emotions of these characters, and I just got such a wonderful sense over who these people really were as the film evolved. And there are, as you said, many comparisons to, I think, specifically Before Sunset.
Oh, my favourite.
So, which is, I think, both of our favourite ones. And all the Before films, I think, have a really strong sense of place, like the cities they're based in, the countries they're based in, but I think, despite that, you're always hyper-focused on the conversation and the dynamic, and that can actually very quickly fall away. And you find that similarly with this. And
if anyone's lost, we're talking about the Before trilogy. We did a bonus episode. For any new listeners, go back and check that out earlier this year. Great trilogy.
And this entire film lives in between the lines of dialogue. I have never seen a film that lets each line of dialogue breathe for so long. And it sounds boring, but it wasn't. Like every line was given seconds to breathe, and it was all about the raising of eyebrow, like glancing at lips, prolonged eye contact. And I just got the sense this is a really real story, a really personal story. It felt like it had been, when something feels really intimately and delicately put together. Like I didn't want to sneeze near it in case it all just blew off the table. Like, just like beautifully woven. It felt really true. Performances were incredible. Framing was something that you'd see entire scenes start with different framing, and towards the end the framing was opposite, and it was for a real reason. I just thought, you've really taken me on a visual journey there. Yeah, it's one of the most nostalgic films I've seen in a really long time. And I started Googling the definition of nostalgia, because I was like, nostalgia
pain from an old wound.
Yeah, it's like
as
pain
Don Draper
from a past.
told me in the first episode of Mad Men.
Right, yeah, it's like pain from something that's lost that you'll never get to see again. Like all this idea of what memory is, how it provides you with a sense of who you are, but also for something that you've lost and can't get back for a moment in time. And just like, what is love?
Baby, don't hurt me.
Baby, don't hurt me. I think I really, really enjoyed it. I don't want to say really anything about what happens in the sort of last hour of the film. But stickiness, realness, and just really delicate and intense in the best way. I really hope people go and see it.
I mean, I was already sold. I saw a trailer before Barbie for it, and I was like, oh, wow, this looks really good. And then I did the thing. Well, I'm not looking at that anymore, because I actually want to see that. And I will absolutely make an effort to see it, and hopefully we can talk about it maybe on a bonus. And
I'd love to. I'd love to go into spoilers. I'm sure when people see it, they'll want to hear more about it.
And that's it also sounds right up my street. And I think when these kind of films are done right, it can really, it's just so good. That middle ground, that kind of non-English speaking kind of romantic cinema. I'm thinking about Worst Person in the World as well. Just great. Give me something else from a different style.
It'd be a great double bill with Worst Person.
Oh, good.
I think so, yeah. It'd be really good.
Did you miss the beginning of this one because you were trying to get ice cream?
No, I made it, but I will say, I think this is what I saw Passages, which we're talking about later. These smaller non-studio films have less marketing association trailers to show. So it was like a 1:30 screening. I got in at like 1:38. And the film was playing by 1:42.
Whoa,
so you had 12 minutes from the screening time to like the film starting. I'm just saying, guys, watch out. Warning. You should not, don't take, I've got 25 minutes every single time.
I was on the Prince Charles Cinema website the other day, and they were like, all caps, bold and red, our films start 10 minutes after the show time. Do not be late.
Look, I think if you're going to see like the Green Flash Lantern Man of Steel 3,
you're
probably going to get 25 minutes, 30 minutes of ads. But for these smaller films, just watch it. You could miss it. And they're the films that you don't want to miss the start of.
So that was Past Lives. We will hopefully definitely talk about that again once I've seen it. But if anyone out there has seen it, is anyone else there loved it, write in to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. Why is it whenever we close it off, there's always have another thought?
There's always
the epilogue. Go on then.
Again, I did comment before on the immigrant experience. I love the way it described the immigrant experience of someone who'd been a child in another country. And then that idea of they come to a new country, develop a relationship with a new country and people from that new country. They themselves feel really distinctively, in this case, Korean. But when they are faced with someone who is fully Korean, who lives in Korea, and then they actually see how different they are, and they're really confronted with like this lack of identity, of actually belonging nowhere. And I thought that was really well done. Interesting, it made me think of Joyride, which I know is trying to do something completely different.
Yeah.
So much of that comedy framing was about the immigrant experience, the sense of identity and who you are. And I actually praised Joyride of the many things I kind of didn't like about it. I thought it was an interesting comedic take on that. And I thought this film really sort of captured that, and I think Celine Song's talked about that, and the cast were talking about their own experiences of being immigrants in different countries and how that frames who they are. Just really smart and subtle, and again, just intimate and soft.
Did you ever see The Farewell?
No.
Oh, that was good. That was great with Awkwafina, where it's the Chinese American family, and they have to go back to China because their matriarch is, the grandmother of the matriarch is ill, but she doesn't know she's ill.
Oh yeah.
And they all have to kind of so it says based on a true lie.
Yes.
And that has a lot in it about, Awkwafina's side of the family who moved to the States and left all this behind. And then there's the family who are in China. But then there's also an uncle who went off and lived in Japan. And I loved all that. It's another great film. I'm still waiting for Lulu Wang's next film, actually. I don't know when that's coming.
Yeah. When was Farewell out?
2019.
Oh, get a move on.
Anyway, that was Past Lives.
Yes. Guys, don't forget we have a bonus episode coming out this Friday. We haven't done the last couple of weeks because of just busyness and life, but
it's also been it's been a very quiet time.
Yes, a little bit quiet too. Yeah. So I did a review of Passages, which is out this week, starring Ben Whishaw. It's an Ira Sachs movie. And George, you went on an inflamed rant about
a film called You Hurt My Feelings with Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Tobias Menzies from The Crown. I got a little bit incensed.
It's a good one. You want to listen to this one, I think.
That'll be out this Friday.
But anyway, George, it is time to go through some of the emails that we get sent in from our listeners. They send in their thoughts, their questions, their concerns to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. Just like Charlie did. Charlie writes in and says, Scrapper review, how fitting. Says, hi fellas, I had the pleasure of seeing Scrapper early at the Edinburgh Film Festival, but didn't realise my two favourite gents I tune into would be thinking of watching it. I loved the film, and to be honest, it's one of those classic, quick British independent films that go under the radar every year, usually made by Film 4 or the like.
I know exactly something.
Yeah, you definitely painted a good picture of this. I love these films as they're usually short. Yes, the cinematography is the type you can watch on your home telly and not be worried about missing too much. That's quite an interesting thing. That something that works for the home telly.
They're quite televisual, but not in anything that diminishes the film.
There's probably quite an art in that because I think everything's leaned so much on, you got to see it on the big screen, you got to see IMAX. There's probably something quite...
The more intimate a film, the better it plays, I think.
And I talked about this phenomenon of it doesn't matter how much you cater your film to the big screen. The vast majority of your film will exist forever in time on a small screen. Yeah. Unless your film's really, really unique and iconic and it gets relisted every year, there's a 3-month window, if you're lucky, a 1-month window where your film's in cinema, and then for the rest of time, it will not be seen that way. So why don't you format it to the small screen? I love these films, usually short. Cinematography is how you can watch on a home telly, not get too worried about missing too much. And usually the scripts and acting are super tight. I think, yes, tight. Like locked in.
Tight. Yeah, and that's why they're usually 90 minutes. They're tight and well disciplined.
I think because directors have to cram so much in with their budget, it helps them not overindulge, brackets like one Nolan, brackets controversial, I know. Anyway, I hope you really enjoyed the film and got as much out of it as I did. I thought it was a perfect mix of complex family relationships and an exploration of working class Britishness as it was nostalgic for my own childhood. Anyway, my question for the two of you is, are there any movies you consider bad or maybe just wasted potential that with another director would be great? For example, purely on a concept level, I think Jordan Peele or Donald Glover would do amazing things with Horns, the Daniel Radcliffe one. Anyway, hope you're well. I listened to your episode whilst folding napkins. Fire alarm on my end. Oh. Charlie from Edinburgh.
I like that. So it's like a just folding kind of siren.
Folding napkins, I assume, because I used to fold napkins when I worked in a restaurant.
I'm imagining table service, nice restaurant, white tablecloth.
Yeah.
Or the
an hour before service.
The red and white checkered tablecloth clipped in over the top.
Do you get like a protractor and measure the distance between the knife and the champagne glass?
And I think wearing a shirt with a tie and maybe even a waistcoat.
Apron. It'd be an apron.
And waistcoat.
Could be, maybe.
Is he not allowed to wear a waistcoat? Are they
usually apron round the waist or apron. Depends on what type of waiter you are.
But now he's going to have a waistcoat as well. That's how fancy I think that sounds.
We painted you perfectly, Charlie.
To answer your question about films that you wish had been done, yes. Recent example, Knock at the Cabin. M. Night Shyamalan film. That could have been a really good, tight, fun.
You just annoyed me by bringing up that film again.
It's rubbish. But if that had been done by... That could have been Fincher-esque. That could have been
Jordan Peele-esque.
Jordan Peele-esque could have been Ari Aster-esque. I think I said that at the time, actually.
Yeah.
I would also say a film... I've mentioned this before, but again, for our new listeners, there's a film called Vox Lux with Natalie Portman, which has got a really great premise, and it's a mess, an absolute mess. Go look it up, and it blends like high school shooting, fame, pop star melodrama over like 20 years. It sounds really interesting. It's shot beautifully. It's got a really interesting cast, really interesting Jude Law performance, and narration by Willem Dafoe, and it's absolute pants. And I just wish someone else had written that and done it better.
You know what film has wasted potential? Fan Four Stick with that cast.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Come on.
Yeah. I know it's called Fantastic Four, guys.
Yeah,
but
it's in the thing, Fan Four Stick.
Yeah, you're right. Miles Teller, Jamie Bell, Kate Mara, and Jamie Bell, and sorry, the other one was Michael B. Jordan. Jamie Bell is one of those actors who I would like to see more of.
100%.
Whenever I see him, I'm always going, "Yeah, Billy."
Jamie Bell.
Yeah,
Go on, Billy.
Go on, Billy. Yeah.
Did I tell that on air?
No, tell it on air. That's a good story.
We went to go see Billy Elliot on lastminute.com, which is when you get like day of or day before tickets. They were like £17. So we were like, yeah, fuck it. Let's like have a couple of titties and go see Billy Elliot. Such was my youth. And then, our seats we were in were like obstructed view way out to the side, but it wasn't full. So we were like, okay, let's just go move to like posher seats. So like maybe like in the interval, we moved in to like proper really good seats. And this guy sat in front of us, who I think was some sort of like Russian opera extraordinaire. Every time Billy would do something like tap dance and just go mental, he would go like this, "Oh, go on, Billy, go on." And like Billy Elliot's like kind of like an upbeat crowd, but like everyone could hear this guy. And we were cracking up so much, even in the really intimate scenes when he's with his mum who's dead. He's like, "Oh, Billy's so beautiful, go on, Billy, go on."
The side clap.
The side clap. And then he's like dancing with the older version of himself. He's like, "Oh, Billy." Standing ovation, like before anyone else stood up. So that every time someone says Billy Elliot, I go, "Go on, Billy."
Anytime you see Jamie Bell now, you have to think that, "Oh, go on, Billy."
Go on, Billy. And obviously it wasn't even Jamie Bell on the stage version, but
you
anyway.
also sounded vaguely like Jamaican when you said that.
Yeah,
You're just way off.
Go on, Billy.
Oh. Next email is from Adam, who says, "Hi, James. Hi, George. I hope you're both well. Firstly, thank you so much for reading my email about Mission Impossible a few weeks ago. It made my week. Oh, you're welcome. I wanted to say how overwhelmed I am with upcoming movie releases at my local cinema. Since Barbenheimer, it has seemed a bit quiet in terms of new films, but Barbie still has the most screenings every day.
It's at the top of the list when you go to book, which to me indicates that it's still most booked.
And I still see waves of pink-adorned viewers rush to the Odeon. Other brands of cinema are available. I'm super happy that it's finally reached Barbillion. Nice. And I can't wait to see what Gerwig does next.
We're going to make $1 billion.
We haven't talked about this. Greta Gerwig is doing 2 Narnia films next.
Yeah,
I think maybe we did talk about it on air, but I can't remember. But I was sad in a way.
Again, it's like when we hear that Neil Blomkamp is doing Gran Turismo. Yeah. I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
I really would have wanted you to do something really different.
And like, don't get me wrong, I fully support and believe in Greta Gerwig to make the films she wants to make.
Well.
And I think those films would be interesting. But it's like, I want to just
do
your own thing.
I know that story. We got like in our lifetime, we had like big budget studio reboot, the retelling of that, and they were okay.
Yeah.
I understand its place in like fiction and fantasy and culture, but I really don't need another Lion Witch in the Wardrobe, Prince Caspian.
I don't want Greta Gerwig's next 5 years to be wasted doing Narnia for Netflix. I want it to be going to do your prime stuff, Gerwig.
Also, who are you gonna recast after James McAvoy did Mr. Tumnus?
Timothy Chalamet, obviously. It's so
it writes itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn it, I want to see it.
Saoirse Ronan as the Snow Queen.
Oh God.
A gender flipped Florence Pugh as Aslan. Back to Adam's email. Having said that, looking ahead, there's a 30th anniversary screening of one of my top 3 movies of all time, Jurassic Park. Yeah. Then there's Past Lives, which we've done today. The Creator's out soon. That's the Gareth
Edwards one with John David Washington.
That looks really
shot
good.
on the FX3. I know I keep mentioning it, but that's crazy.
Yeah, cool. And A Haunting in Venice. Okay, look, you might be the only person who's excited about that, Adam. We might review it, but it's coming out.
I told you that people were chuckling at the trailer because this sort of
it
hides Kenneth Branagh that it's a what's-a-face film for a long time.
Yeah, it hides the fact that it's a porno film. I would rather see that film if it had Steve Martin's Pink Panther in it. There's been a haunting in Venice. It's un hamburger.
I would love a Steve Martin Pink Panther film today. Yeah. I don't care where we think comedy is going. I would love that today.
By the way, we're not going to review it now, but I'm just going to say I really, really enjoy Only Murders in the Building.
Natalia too.
It's a real nice,
really good
complete change of pace from anything else on TV. Having said that, blah, 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 it's not too far. There's also rescreenings of 2001, A Star is Born, Joker, Batman, etc., and lots of things to keep you busy on a Saturday. P.S. Public service announcement. Cinemas are awesome. They are great.
I think I'm noticing a big push on, because I think, look, the cinemas have this problem is they cannot create new reasons to come to the cinema, really. Yeah. There are either films coming out or there are films on, and you either like the films or you don't. Yeah. And I think I have noticed, post-COVID, not only are cinema tickets cheaper, at like multiplexes, I'd say.
Or you got the multi-pass ticket things. Yeah.
Yes, but I'm multi-pass things. Or I'm noticing they are bringing back more films that people are likely to love, just giving people more of a reason to get out of the flat of the doom scroll through Netflix.
The other night, about a week ago, I opened my app on my local cinema just to see what was showing, even though I couldn't make it that night, and I was so annoyed because that night at 7:00 was Terminator 2: Judgment Day on the big screen. And I would so love to have seen that.
You know what Talia's going to do? She's going to see Alien and Aliens double bill at the IMAX. And I could have gone, but I'm in New York. So she was like, "Do you want to do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to."
This weekend, I would have done it, but I'm busy as well.
I know. So she got invited by a friend. She was like, "Will I like it?" And I'm like, "It'll be great. It'll be long. It's like quite long, slow horror, but like to see it on the big screen will be incredible."
And Aliens, one of my favorites. I think of that. One of my favorite films.
They're both
Whilst
great.
talking about IMAX stuff, they also showed 2001.
Yeah.
But I was also busy. That was this
weekend. And we were literally talking about it the other week.
And I'm still not over this. I'm just going to vent about it.
By the way, this is from a very sort of like, obviously we're living in London. That's a London perspective of like we have a great offering of films to choose from.
But just talking about IMAX, so people might be aware that the 40th anniversary of Stop Making Sense is coming out, and they've reissued the film for it, which is one of the best concert films of all time. If anyone knows, when I've had those emails come in asking us what our best cinematic experiences are, our best experiences are in the cinema, Stop Making Sense for me is always their number one, and they're reissuing it this year. And I was like, look, do I go and rewatch it again at the cinema, having had such a great experience the first time round?
Yeah. Do you want to like?
Do I want to do? And I said to myself, well, I'd only do that if they showed it in IMAX. James, if came and went. I Googled, I thought, I better just Google. I just thought, what if they do it in the IMAX? Oh, they're doing it for the IMAX. 2 nights only, sold out, done.
Yeah.
With a live feed Q&A.
I think there's more of an appetite for
reunion.
these things than they give credit for.
And I was furious because I was like, that's the only, I would love to have seen, of all the films I can think of to see in IMAX, I would say that one. Maybe Blade Runner 2049.
But it now creates a sense of urgency of when you see it, you're like, oh, I have to book it. I have to.
But I can't replicate that experience now.
No, I know.
The best thing I can do is see it in the cinema.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, you never know, they might do it again.
Unlikely. Anyway, I'm so sorry. Adam, just to round out your email, you do also talk about how great Harris Dickinson is. And you say he comes across as such a genuine, thoughtful guy that you could easily share a pint with in a spoons. He's incredibly talented and has stolen the show in See How They Run, The King's Man, Where the Crawdads Sing, and Triangle of Sadness.
He feels like a guy I would have met who's like, when I was at uni, my housemate's friend's friend. Yeah. He's like, do acting at the moment. Yeah. And you'd be like, oh, cool, man.
He seems really
see him. This isn't true, but...
Thanks for your brilliant podcast and all the best, Adam. Thank you, Adam.
This next one is from Sadie, who writes in with the subject line, Theatre Camp. Hi, James and George. Yes. I just listened to your non-review of Theatre Camp, George.
Yes, I did a non-review of Theatre Camp, which is a film I saw last week, but in kind of doing a non-review, I kind of did a review, and the fact was, it was just kind of like, it was fine. It was meh.
I did have more of a reaction to the film than George, and I would like to give my thoughts. I loved it. As a big musical theatre fan, I was definitely the target audience, but I thought it was so funny and was laughing throughout the whole thing. I also found the ending quite heartening and left the theatre rather uplifted. I've caught myself singing the final song and smiling at certain jokes since I've seen it. I do agree that the film could have committed more to the documentary, in inverted commas, or just to have not included it at all, but I didn't really mind, and that's my only small critique. Again, half-arsing the documentary thing. All or nothing.
Yeah.
Overall, I thought it was such fun and can't wait to rewatch it in a couple of years when I've forgotten most of the jokes and can laugh all over again. All the best, Sadie from California. P.S. My unpopular opinion, I'd like to add myself to the smallest of people who prefer Monsters University over Monsters Inc.
Oh, okay,
Both fantastic. Monsters University is just imprinted on me much more. Again, that's the third or fourth time since we went after Monsters University.
That's a really... That's an interesting. If someone asked me, "What have you found interesting? What have you learned from the podcast?" I would say, well, guess what? A lot of people prefer Monsters University to Monsters Inc.
Yeah. Hey, take a seat.
I always find that interesting.
But a fan of Theatre Camp.
Thank you. And the next email is from Liliana about the Hollywood strikes. And Liliana says, "Hi guys, I hope you're doing well. I've just listened to your episode on the Hollywood strikes. I think that was last week when we did about the delays of fixing films." And I sort of wanted to ask a follow-up question. Obviously, the strikes aren't only delaying films, but also series. Within the long list of series that have been delayed, 2 in particular caught my eye: Stranger Things and Euphoria. Both series are supposed to be teenage dramas, but after COVID delays and now strike delays, most of the actors are going to be well past their teenage years when they get around to filming next season.
They're going to have to do an It with Stranger Things, like cut.
Or just digitally de-age them. That's what they did with some of the kids. In It Part 2, they de-aged the kids.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like, you set it 20 years later.
Oh, that makes much more sense. Yeah. But, do you think studios should just take the hit and cancel these series, as the series continuity will be lost, given the fact that the actors in the series are definitely not going to look the age they are portraying? Or do you think they should just reimagine the next seasons, and like you probably said, set it in the future, and find a way where the characters' age difference in between series can be justified? Or do you think we as an audience just need to go with it, accept the magic of Hollywood, where an almost 30-year-old can play a teenager? I don't have the right answer or even a preferred answer. I just want to know your opinion on the matter. Apologies for the long email. Love the podcast. Keep up the good work. Smiley face. Nice. Lily, in brackets, Lily. So she's written Lily with an I.
Yeah,
in the brackets, Lily with a Y. Thank you, Lily.
Lily.
Not Lily. Lily. Oh, Lily. Your Venezuelan correspondent writing in from sunny Bournemouth, James.
We had a conversation a really long time ago about how the difference between cinema and TV. We talked about the benefits and detriments of them both. And one of the detriments of TV, so the benefits of TV, you get to tell this long story, it gets to evolve, you get to know your characters. But the detriments are you're dealing with budgets, your actors potentially changing, like people drop in and out of shows, writer strikes. That is hard when you're trying to capture a TV show over such a period of time. And it's no wonder shows, like all the shows that will likely be bad in the next 2 years because of the strikes, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, I'm saying that's likely what's going to happen. You are at risk when you're telling a story over so many years, when you have to pause.
Specifically about Stranger Things and Euphoria, I will say that with Stranger Things, the whole last season was basically establishing everything for the final season. Right. And I think they can just about, they're already looking a little bit older anyway, but they've all gone through their growth spurt. And those actors, even if they shoot it next year or the year after, they're still going to be in their early 20s.
Yeah.
It's not like, Anna watched Never Have I Ever, the show on Netflix.
No.
But anyway, she was watching that, and I saw a bit of it, and I was like, oh, that's cool. She was like, yeah, this guy's really handsome, and I was like, all right. And she was like, he's 32, and he's playing against a 19-year-old. Anyway, but with Euphoria, you know what? I thought about this the other day, and I was like, because Sam Levinson came out and said apparently the next season of Euphoria is going to be like a noir, and it's going to be, Rue navigating.
That's quite typical, actually. Now I've seen,
and I just thought, you know what? I think I don't need any more Euphoria. Look, Angus Cloud sadly died, very tragically. Barbie Ferreira's left the show because she was just like, my character didn't get anything, wasn't given anything else to do.
It did feel sidetracked season 2 after sitting with it. It
was so inventive and propulsive and energetic, but when I got to the end, I'm now just like, I don't.
But I remember seeing 2 episodes and doing impressions and being like, yes, it's there, and it did that really great intro story to some of the characters, but then it really just sort of spiraled out. And
I don't need more of this mess, because they also kind of resolved quite a lot by the end, and I can't have another one of just. I can't have another series of Zendaya just spinning around a room to Labyrinth. Go.
In a church, and Labyrinth is there, but he's gone. To be honest, that scene was good when she was in the church.
It was great.
And the moment when the Sinead O'Connor also sadly passed away.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, my God.
When the guy was singing Sinead O'Connor and it intercut. It didn't really make sense. That was
stupid. Yeah, intercut with
it was good.
With Sydney Sweeney doing it. Anyway, that's what I think. So I think, you know what? You move on from Euphoria.
But should the audience just be able to go with it and accept the magic of Hollywood?
It literally depends on the cast.
Yeah.
If you look at that cast and they look... If they look like...
Way older.
Sorry, a friend of mine reminded me of this the other day. If they look like... Sonny in Grease. Have you ever seen a picture of the actor who played Sonny in Grease?
He's 48.
Yeah. If they look like that,
and he's the one that has the line, did she put up a fight? It's who's that guy's dad? Talking about keep pushing for it and she'll keel over.
If you don't know what you can't picture it, Google Sonny in Grease.
And he's meant to be 17, 18. He
looks like he drives a cab in the Bronx, okay? He shouldn't be at a school.
I don't care how much they smoked jokes in the 1950s. It's not. No one was doing it.
Anyway.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you so much for writing in your emails. We love to hear them. Send in your emails to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com. We'll read them out in future episodes of the show. Let's end the show with a game. George, as always, Pop Kitchen ends with a game. I've got 3 miscellaneous games for you. If you don't know, we play games. Sometimes I'll just throw, you got to name 7 in 30.
Yeah, you are niche with them.
You got to be weird. It can't
7
be
something in 30 seconds.
7 something in 30 seconds. The 7 in 30. These are good fun. So what did I do? Last time we did what came out first. But did I do...
And also you did characters.
I said name 7 Adam Sandler movies in 30 seconds last week. Was that last week or 2 weeks ago?
It was ages ago. And our characters lost an arm.
Yes, yeah, that was good.
But go on.
So George, are you ready for your first round of name 7 in 30? Play along at home. I need my timer for 30 seconds. Yeah.
Oh, I'm nervous. I always get nervous with these ones.
I know, they are a bit. Don't worry, it'll be great. Okay, George, are you ready? You have to name 7 films with an animal in the title. You have 30 seconds. Your time starts now.
Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yes.
The Whale.
Yes.
Hatchie, A Dog's Tale.
Sure.
Cats and Dogs.
Yes.
Cats and Dogs, The Return of Kissy Galore.
No sequels.
Shit!
10 seconds.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
The Lion King.
Yes.
Bug's Life.
Yes. Just. I said no sequels because you could do like Spider-Man, all of them.
Fair enough. Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
Yes.
is a recent one.
Yes, again, when I have lots of time, of course.
Warhorse.
Warhorse. Yeah, that's a good one.
Pink Panther.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you like the fact I went for a non-animal, one that doesn't actually have an animal in it, which is the whale?
Yeah. Well.
There's no whale
Oh,
in the
yeah,
animal.
sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, what? Because he looked like a whale, James.
To go at the title, I was like, oh.
Okay, good.
Very well done. Yeah, when I thought of it, and instead of looking, I did it with myself, and I was like, oh my God. And then I instead started going through the animals, not the films. So, you know what I mean? I found that easier. I was like, horse, ants, beetle.
That is 7 is a good number.
I think so. 7 in 30. Ready, George? Same again. Okay, George. You need to name me 7 films that are set over 500 years ago. You have 30 seconds. Your time starts now.
Elizabeth the Golden Age?
Yes.
No, that's 400 years ago.
Is it not? Okay.
1600s. 500. Gladiator.
Yes.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yeah, I'll give it.
10,000 years BC.
Yes.
Monty Python's Life of Brian. Come on, give it.
Fine.
The Passion of the Christ.
Yes.
The Last Temptation of Christ. Christ. That's allowed.
Yeah, it's good. So I actually found this hard.
Wasted time with fucking.
But then there's quite a good category, so you can go Spartacus, Moses and 10 Commandments.
Yeah.
You did 10,000 BC.
Yeah, Ben-Hur. All the biblical epics.
All biblical epics were a good part to go down. Do you remember Year One with Michael Cera and
Jack Black?
That's a good one, setting. Troy, you said. Do you remember Alexander?
Troy, Gladiator, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I remember Alexander the Great with Colin Farrell and Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, wow.
And then Beowulf.
Oh,
Hercules.
God, yeah.
There's loads of Herculeses.
Yeah.
But,
Herculi.
Hercules. Exodus Gods and Kings with Christian Bale.
Of course, yeah. The biblical epics and you're right.
Do you remember Pompeii with Kit Harington and Kiefer Sutherland?
Is he in it? Wow.
Yeah, he's like the bad guy.
Wow.
I don't know why I said
what
that.
What about
weird.
65?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Straight away.
When
When it's in the title, those are the ones to go for. But an interesting category, like, because I really am denied about how far back I go.
I don't know why. My first choice was to go for a film that's right on the borderline.
We now have to figure it out. Yeah. I should have just rejected it outright. Because I thought, what if I did 100 years ago? But then there's quite a lot of like Revolutionary War stuff and. Anyway.
What, there's going to be someone out there who fought in the Revolutionary War. It's going to go, I find that offensive.
All right, last one. George, are you ready? This is another name 7 in 30. How well did you do? I'm interested to. Okay, ready? You have to name 7 superhero films with no sequels. You have 30 seconds, and they can't be sequels that are in development. I'm talking no sequel. You have 30 seconds. Your time starts now.
Fantastic Four 2015.
Yes.
Green Lantern.
Yes.
Green Hornet.
Yes.
Superman. No, not Superman Returns.
Yes.
5 seconds. I don't know.
Time. So, you did very well. You got 4. There are almost no superhero films that do not have sequels. So you said Fantastic, Green Hornet, Green Lantern, which were all not successes.
Superman Returns.
Superman Returns, which is a bit of a sort of, it's just...
It is a sequel, isn't it? No, but it's not, but it's a standalone.
I think it's very standalone that didn't get a sequel. And it's really like... It's in this weird period pre-2008.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's when Bryan Singer doing X-Men jumps in to do Superman, doesn't get picked up.
Oh, Supergirl
As well. So you've got the Daredevil with Ben Affleck.
Oh, yes.
You've got
Ang Lee's Hulk.
You've got the Incredible Hulk. Which didn't get a sequel. Go on.
No, because Mark Ruffalo is meant to be that character. And I know it's not a sequel, but like...
No, I don't count it. I don't count Avengers.
They're bringing Liv Tyler from that film back in
but I don't count Avengers being a sequel to Iron Man.
All right.
So I think it didn't get a sequel. Big Hero 6 counts technically, but it's on the edge.
That's a good one. I like that.
The Punisher from 2004, which I've not seen.
No, that did get a sequel. It was called Punisher Warzone with a different actor.
Oh, right. Okay, I'll take it back. So the only MCU films that don't have sequels or sequels announced is Eternals, right? There have been talks, but there's no Eternals who's coming, and Black Widow for obvious plot reasons. Some of the characters in Black Widow are getting a TV show or a film.
Which characters?
You know, Florence Pugh and David Harbour, like that ragtag group, they're getting something.
Oh, God.
Yeah, they're getting one. But isn't that literally every Marvel film? Marvel property?
That's quite a hard question.
Yeah. That's it. I've read you all of the superhero films.
So how many could I have got?
You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and you said a 12th one. So I think 12, and you get to name 7. I think that's fair.
Yeah. And I got
Isn't that interesting?
I got 4.
You got 4, yeah.
Okay.
That's quite an interesting one.
That is.
Unsurprising, but also I'm like,
it's not just a game, it's a statement on the industry.
It is. I try to keep them political. Okay, George, I now have a cast list
Let's
countdown.
end with a cast list countdown.
We are going to play Cast List Countdown. This is a game where I'm going to read a cast in the order of supporting actors to lead star. George has to tell me what film I'm talking about before I get to the end of the cast list. George, are you ready?
I'm ready.
You have to guess the film based on its cast in 3, 2, 1. Randall Park.
Okay.
Kenan Thompson.
Okay.
Max Greenfield.
Okay.
Jack McBrayer.
Okay.
Michael Shannon. Adam Scott. John Stamos.
What?
Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Jason Mantzoukas. Ellie Kemper. Ed Helms. Kobe Smulders.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall?
Bill Hader. David Wayne. Amy Poehler. Last one, Paul Rudd. Do you know what this film is?
Okay, I think I do, but I've not seen it.
Yeah.
Is it They Came Together?
Yes, from 2014.
Yeah.
A really forgotten comedy.
But Edgar Wright really rates it, I know that.
And it's...
wow, so They Came Together.
Yeah, and I think it's like a real intense satire, like very much turned up satire.
On rom-coms?
Yeah, on rom-coms. And I've not thought about it, and then I saw that come up on my TikTok, and I saw the cast, and I went, "Oh,
don't mind if I do."
Don't mind if I do free content. But yeah, it's there, and I think it has a bit of a cult following. I think there's some people out there who really root for it. I mean, you just said Edgar Wright, but it says it's got 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not that we look at those anymore. But yeah, They Came Together. Look at that cast of comedy talent in there.
Yeah, you really threw me. I was starting to think Evan Almighty, Bridesmaids, Cedar Rapids.
Because you got a lot of alumni from this film.
You got people who are in loads of other films together with each other. Like, you've got the whole DNA family tree of American film.
Well, there you go, guys. Thank you so much for spending your time with us and for listening to episode 92 of Pulp Kitchen. Don't forget, we post new episodes of the show every single Wednesday.
And as every week, guys, please continue to support us on Instagram and TikTok. Like, subscribe, share, follow. We really appreciate it. Give us a review. If you listen to this on Apple Podcasts, if you're on Spotify, you can leave a comment as well and add to the 5-star rating. Just give us 5-star ratings.
If you listen to us in real time and it's a Friday and you're listening to us this week, go check out the bonus.
Yes, yeah. If it's Friday right now as you're listening to this, go check out the bonus.
Fun,
and
more
just
antics.
Keep your eye on the feed. Really appreciate you joining us.
Support recently, amazing.
We feel very touched.
Climbing up the charts.
Very blessed.
It's so good. And we are literally I'm not to brag, we are the only independent podcast in like the top 15 of that chart. Everyone else is like titans of industry.
And it's because of you guys.
This is Pulp Kitchen Media Limited.
Yes.
This is it,
These
guys.
4 walls.
So thank you so much.
Have a great week, guys.